India's successful moon landing has changed the way the world looks at the country's space sector. That's the word coming in from Pawan Goenka, the chairman of the Indian National Space Promotion and Authorization Centre. In a conversation with me, Mr. Goenka said he expects investor interest to go up in space thanks to India's recent moon and sun missions. Goenka was also part of the Space Economy Leaders Meeting, which was organised on the sidelines of G20 earlier this year. He said that the group agreed that there was a need for a multilateral alliance in the space sector. Listen in.
I think G20 presidency year has gone quite well, as I can see it, for India, in terms of showcasing India itself in the eyes of the world, not just in terms of our views and our sort of advances, but also showcasing our infrastructure with multiple cities hosting the event. I think it was quite impressive. Very few countries in the world can do that. And Delhi, of course, is getting ready for the summit. And I keep seeing the videos of how Delhi is prepared for it. So I think overall, no matter which sector we talk about, and I'm closely related to space sector, so I know a little more about that. But India has been able to project a very good image of itself in front of the world and leading the agenda and hopefully coming out with some final communique that would be aligned to what India's view of the world is, would be a very good outcome of the G20.
Dr. Goenka, I would like to ask you about space collaboration at the G20 level. There was a working group on space. What exactly was being discussed and what kind of consensus document is being achieved on the space sector?
This year we had 18 space agencies, 8 invited countries and one sort of legal entity association that is very closely involved in space attending, along with 35 companies from outside India and some 40-50 companies from within India. So it was a very large gathering in Bangalore that happened about 2 months ago. And the focus of the G20, led by India, of course, was on 3 sort of keywords: economy, responsibility, and alliance. Now, in terms of economy, I think the whole world, many countries now are looking at space, not just as scientific exploration, but the impact it has on the economy of the country. India, too, is now focusing with the space reforms on the economy. And therefore, what is concluded was that there is a need to bring space in the limelight in the G20 and make it part of the formal agenda. In terms of responsibility, the big concern that the space community has around the globe is the space debris that is being created with multiple satellite launches that are happening today. And therefore, how do we create sort of a corridor for human space flight, which is unobstructed, which doesn't have any debris for the safety of the human space flight? And also how to look at sustainable manufacturing of the systems as well as green propellants for space. And when it comes to alliance, I think, as I said earlier, that there are a lot of countries now that are interested in space. Not everyone has the space technology or space infrastructure, but many countries want to now start leveraging space in terms of communication, navigation, observation, Earth observation, and getting various applications done. And therefore, what was concluded was that there is a need for multiple bilateral, multilateral alliances, and also responsibility of the spacefaring countries to support space aspiring countries.
What about after Chandrayaan? Do you think the Chandrayaan landing on the lunar surface, that has opened up more interest in the Indian space sector? Could we see more private sector investments coming in?
So see, the last 2 months have completely changed the way the world looks at India when it comes to space. The Chandrayaan-3 success has given sort of a new visibility to Indian space sector from the scientific viewpoint. And what it does is create a kind of a credibility of the Indian space sector. So I see 2 or 3 things happening that will have an impact on the commercial use of space, or commercial part of space or private sector. Number one is that both Chandrayaan and Aditya have used multiple vendors, 100 plus vendors, supplying components and systems to ISRO. And suddenly the world is going to see that, look, India has a very strong vendor base for making launch vehicles, for making spacecrafts, making payloads, and so on. And therefore, I would think that there will be a lot more demand for the Indian vendors to start supplying globally whatever they're doing. Right now, that amount or that number is very small, because primarily these vendors supply only to the Indian requirements of ISRO. The second thing that will happen, obviously, is with all the attention that we are getting, the investors who have been sitting on the sidelines up to now will start coming in. In the last 2 years, there has been a good sort of interest of investors in investing in the Indian private sector in space. And last year we had $100 million plus. This year we have already crossed about $50 million, but still a very small amount compared to what is being spent or invested in the space sector, private space sector globally. And I would think that with the visibility we have with Chandrayaan and Aditya L1, we will get a lot more interest in investor and a lot more sort of ability of the private sector to take bigger bets rather than taking baby steps.
And delegates from